No, we were live, but we'll record it. All you, Bunny. 5 o'clock.
Hi, okay, but welcome. My name is Bonnie Clark. I'm chair of the Parks and Recreation Committee, and we have a bunch of guests tonight. So what I'd like to do before we start, we have just 2 things on the agenda. First, the presentation, and then very briefly, a real quick update on the project management plan that we worked on last month. So I wanted to start obviously with the skate park, and I thought we could just kind of go around the room and ask people to introduce themselves and briefly just state what your affiliation is or why you're here. But I want Chris to at least be able to see who committee members are and who our guests are as well.
I'm Don Smoke, and I'm basically the liaison with the recreation center. So the rec center and the Parks and Rec sort of working here.
Misty Gleason, I'm community connector in Sullivan, and I'm on the Parks and Rec committee, and I'm excited about skate park.
I'm Bill Procco, and I'm with the Parks and Rec committee.
I'm Julie Lombauer, and I'm secretary of the Parks and Rec committee.
I'm Chris Hogan. I live in Auburn. I'm with Nor'easter Skate Parks, and be talking to you all a little bit tonight about just kind of what the process looks like from what we've done in the past and where the future may lead.
Ray Weintraub, town manager.
Yvette Grindle, town clerk, and part of the Parks and Rec committee.
Gary Edwards, Parks and Rec committee.
Games, I frequent skate park all the time. Want to see what's going on? Voice concerns about how it is right now.
Right.
My name is CJ. I've been skating the park for over a decade now. I built the original park from the Tony Hawk Foundation and it'd be cool to see a new park.
I'm Karen Shanahan. I'm representing the select board tonight, and I happen to own a business across the street from the skate park. I'm Candy Eaton. I'm coordinator for Gay Family Sullivan, and we're making Sullivan friendly for all ages.
Hi, I'm Rob Eaton. I live here in Sullivan. I was involved with a skate park construction back in Ellsworth many, many years ago. And I saw the incredible things that happen when you give kids who just need a good, and adults, just need a good place to go do things, to have that place. I watched the care they had for it. I watched all of them into that for years. And, as part of, we talked about building our community here at Sullivan, I'm looking to see where this goes tonight, because I'm kind of hoping we can hear, do we have to have the same kind of fences we have now? Where could that go? How can this become a real community park, inclusive of an incredible place for people to skate?
I'm Alex. I live in Sullivan. I just wanna, have a place for people to hang out, and it would be good for kids to go and adults to go. Right there, someplace,
I'm Logan, resident of Sullivan. Was involved with the original skate park when that all came about with the Tony Hawk Foundation. Here to find out about.
Great, thank you. So Bill, did you want to add anything about what we've done in the last couple of months and what we discussed before Chris begins?
It's just, I'm blown away. I've only been looking at it for 4 years, but I'm blown away by the energy of the town and the fact that there's actually a skate park here now, although it's dated, but that you've opened your hearts and minds up to a really large group of, people that need that. It's an inclusive, amazingly artistic community that often gets left out. And myself included, I've been skating since the seventies. And it's done so much for my life, even now. So I just wanted to thank the town for everything that they've done up till now. But like everything, updates are needed, I would compare it to, like, would you stop for a phone booth? Just like a skate park. It may seem like there's not a large amount of people out there all the time, but, I can guarantee you, if something like that were built, you would be amazed. Transformation and the energy that would come about from that, not just from Sullivan, but from all the surrounding communities.
Sullivan on the map.
All of them, yeah.
Chris, do you wanna?
Sure. Yeah, really excited to see everybody come together tonight. Bill had reached out to some friends of mine as well as myself, saying that the community was interested in thinking about renovating their skate park. And so I came tonight at Bill's invitation, just to kind of walk you guys through who I am, who we are as a company, what our experience has been in the skate park building industry, and why we're doing what we do. So, everybody see this okay? I'm gonna talk over it. You don't have to read every word. But basically, myself and my partner met some 20-something years ago at a skate park that we were very lucky to have in southern New Hampshire. And that kind of launched us into, as Bill was saying, it's so much more than just riding. It's music, it's travel, it's all of these other cultures and communities that all come together and kind of pass through skateboarding. But we were really lucky that we had one of the earlier poured-in-place concrete parks in New England. And we saw all kinds of people come. It was a major attraction for people as far down as New York, Boston. People would come down from Montreal. So we were really, really lucky to have that facility. And we didn't realize it at the time, but it really set a trajectory for the rest of our lives, being that we would go on to seek out more places to go skate, and it would take us all over the world and turn into careers for us. So it really kind of all came together in some way. So yeah, we've been doing it for about 10 years, worked for a lot of the bigger names in the skate park industry, and have done it all over the country, done projects abroad. And what Nor'easter is about was that we really want to be giving back to where we live. I live in Auburn, which is 2 hours away. We want to be able to see small towns be able to realize dreams like this, and not have to, have the only resources be out in California or Arizona, that sort of thing. There's been a big growth in the amount of people that do this sort of thing, and I think it makes a lot more sense to be a more localized company to do this. So yeah, together between you and myself, we've probably done about 150 poured-in-place concrete skate parks. Not all as a company. As a company, we're relatively young, but in a lot of those circumstances, we were in leadership, foreman, supervisor positions, and wearing every hat on the construction site as well. We do everything from the design, the planning, to all of the concrete work, excavation, welding, carpentry. So we really have an all-inclusive understanding of what it takes to do these projects. There's not somebody that sits in the office that is just an office person, it's us. So if we're planning on something, well, we're gonna also be the ones building it. And in our experience, that's what works out the best, is to design, build. That way you can see an intent all the way through. There isn't so much separation of duties, responsibilities, and intention throughout the project. So me on the left, Keith on the right. We are both still actively skating all the time. So this is still a passion for us. We're trying to build for the community, but there's a selfishness to it as well, because we're trying to build stuff that we want to ride. And ultimately, that's the goal. And I think that's part of what makes us a bit different, is that we're trying to stay local. We want this park to be as good as it possibly can, or any park that we work on, because we're gonna be riding it. You know, it's not like we're flying away somewhere. So some recent projects that we've done, is Ludlow, Vermont, 4,200 square feet. And on the left, you can see, kind of what goes into creating what's on the right finished product. There's a lot of excavation in this particular site. There was very minimal drainage work. Most of this was built up earthwork. The bowl is about half in ground and the deep end's a little bit above, just for the sake of not putting so much of a burden on a drainage system. Didn't include a photo, but this park, I don't know how many people are familiar with a couple of years ago, the floods that came through Vermont. So that's a creek over there by the shipping container. This park got nearly washed away as soon as we finished with concrete. But it got undermined, and the concrete is all steel reinforced, and it just held there floating over a new river that formed underneath it.
Nice.
So we overdo it. Overkill is kind of the name of the game. So it was undermined about halfway to where that rail is, and that quarter pipe at the end was completely floating. And there was a hairline crack and maybe not even an eighth of an inch of settlement. So
What was it like to skate in it then?
when it was like that, it was cool. I should have included some photos. It was on my birthday, and it was a little bit spooky because you're up, because what's there is a 4-foot ramp, and what was undermined was an additional 4 or 5 feet down. So you're really just like up there in space.
So you just.
Yeah, we had to do it. It was too good of a photo op. I feel stupid now for not including it, but I didn't want to show up and show a broken skate park. But the testament was that it was fine, and it's since been filled. And if you went there today, you would never know that anything happened. It all ended up getting a set of footings underneath it and put up on post and beam, and then backfilled with crushed stone. And then we had to import a major amount of material to rebuild what was washed away. It was like 100-year storm, something that nobody could have really predicted.
Happens better be 3-4 years now.
Well, we dug the creek down quite substantially. Anyways, I could talk about that for a while. That was a fun period of time. another smaller park that we did, in 2023. This one's got kind of a cool, unique, plexiglass wall ride feature. This is one that I designed and was the foreman for Dreamland Skate Parks. This was not through our company, but this is within the last 2 years. And so, this one got a lot of love put into it. The space tile theme that you see there is because, Derry is the home of Alan Shepard. And they wanted to do something astronaut space themed, and that was kind of the subtle nod to it.
Is that what's on the right?
It is.
I don't skate, so, and I don't know about other people here, but you really have to, like, when you're using terms and whatnot, point to them, so I.
Okay. Sorry, my mistake.
And I can't, I mean, that looks so different than our skate park that I can't make a connection to really do it.
Yeah, well, because you're looking at, we're an above ground metal structure,
Right.
prefab somewhere, and he's talking about,
Yeah.
in-ground port concrete.
It is pretty different. Some of these obstacles do have a lot of the same intent as what exists here now. This is just kind of where the evolution of that is.
Yeah, and Bonnie, I'm sorry.
No, that's right. Is the colored zone like a drop off, like you jump off it or something?
So what the colored zone is this is like a pool.
Oh, I'm thinking of the other picture.
Yes, this is like a pool style feature,
Yeah.
and this is the detail of the top lip.
Oh, okay.
So where you would have tiles in a pool.
So you skate on that?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So that's at the top, so it simulates like pool tiles.
Oh,
A swimming pool,
yeah.
in California, years and years and years ago, when the surf just wasn't happening, they started to take it to the, backyard swimming pool.
Mhm.
So a lot of the skate parks have pools with tile and coping. And so Dreamland incorporated a sort of a local aspect into the design of the park, which we were actually just talking about out at the site. Wouldn't it be nice, if everything did come to fruition, that we could incorporate something from the Scudic.
Ocean. Yeah.
And the thought came to me about, before you go over the bridge, you see the granite, Scudic mountain silhouette, to have maybe something in the park, maybe a granite shape of Scudic Mountain that could be skated or rails or, board slid or something like that, to be part of the park. They even do like dory boats, or I saw a park in, I think Virginia with like a lobster boat,
Uh-huh.
that's skatable. It's just a piece of architecture, not literally a boat, but something that's silhouetted like that.
Right.
But it's just kind of neat. That's sort of an example of the same mindset, bringing
Yeah,
the
just
local.
Bringing some local flair into it, and that one's a little bit more subtle than some of the others, but it's something that's fun to do and something that people appreciate, and is a nice nod to local history.
So up above that blue, is that skatable and then you can skate down into the boat?
It is, yeah. So
Higher elevation, right?
sorry. So this area here is right here.
Okay.
And so this is down in the ground.
Yeah.
And this is up above. So this particular park is like multiple tiers
Okay.
of floor elevations and up above deck elevations. So, you can ride down, up, down, up.
Okay.
And it's one of my favorites. But yeah, this is a world away from what we're currently looking at on Route 1 there.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why I was invited. This is one that we did not design and worked on the construction of, this past fall in Newport, Rhode Island. This is a gigantic park, humongous. This is just on there for some credibility. I don't think we're not gonna stuff this into there. So. Yeah, anyways. How we come to this stuff. We were talking a little bit before everybody showed up, just about kind of what the process is. How do you arrive at something like this? Is it the chicken or the egg? And it's a little bit of both. But with this slide, this is, basically once the decision has been made to move forward, a lot of land's been secured. You want to start figuring out how we're gonna make something better. What we'll typically do is gather all the people that in the room that are going to be riding it, are stakeholders in it, are participating in the project, and just kind of figure out with the given site what is possible, you know, because there's always certain limitations, whether it be, you know, you've got granite ledge underneath it, or you've got a totally flat site, or you're on a hill. In this particular case, your skate park is relatively flat, has a little bit of opportunity for some drainage, but if any real meaningful elevation changes were to happen, it would more than likely be going upward instead of down. Just that's my initial hip shot assessment of what's going on there. There is a culvert that goes down under Route 1 that looks pretty interesting, and it's a thing that could get investigated as far as where to put water should this project go forward. But yeah, basically we all talk about, what do you want? What do you want it to look like? What's possible? And just kind of filter that through what our experience is and what we know works and is reasonable to do and what fits reality and a budget. And that's kind of the design process in a nutshell. So this is the very first draft, which looks very bare bones because it's subject to change. And we do change it as we go along. This was the one for dairy. This was the first draft that I did. Up there at the very top, you can see a bowl that's kind of oddly shaped. That was originally shaped like a
Apollo
module. Yeah. And ultimately, we decided that that was not what everybody wanted. And so we went back to the drawing board and we kind of stumbled through a few other ideas on how to get the space theme into that park in a way that was more subtle than that. And so it was revised. We continue going through the process. And then we got to a rendering, which was close to what finally got built. We made some modifications, being that it was a design build project. Really one of the big advantages there is we do our best to plan and design, but there's nothing like standing in the space to really know what needs to happen and, you know, slight alterations, modifications that would really make the place shine.
How big is that relative to our?
So this is 10,000 square feet. So this is 100 by 100. Yours is currently 62 by 104.
That's
So
far.
So
Not that far.
no, not considerably bigger, but 40% bigger. That's considerable. So when we have a really solid concept design in place, we'll move into the construction document phase, and that is largely dependent on what the town's going to require, how big the project is, what kind of impact some of those things are gonna have on the project. One of the first recent work slides that I showed of Ludlow did not have engineered stamped construction documents. And it was left within our best judgment to build it strong, and we did, as the river told. And that was never a previously flooded zone. So, you know, this is really subjective in different projects at what lengths to go to through the documentation and engineering phase. I'm not really here to say what is the right fit for you or anybody else, but that is typically the next step when a concept design is made. This is a design that we did for Freeport, which has kind of been a little bit bogged down with some bureaucracy. Fortunately, we went through a lot of effort to make a really site-specific design.
Yeah, it's quite the space.
So what this doesn't show very well is that this is a large detention pond, water detention pond, and this is currently in its use today is a big ditch, which they thought that they were going to flood for an ice skating rink, and it never worked. And it doesn't seem like the town is really wanting to let go of that land. So this one's kind of sitting stagnant at the moment.
So, just, I'm curious about when there are snakes.
Yeah.
It sounds like it just got snagged because there wasn't a real clear vision or.
There was a pretty clear vision, but what was happening is this was a nonprofit that was really spearheading this project. And what happened was the town wanted them to have pretty much all of their work done ahead of being granted the land that was in question. So they wanted to have, you know, pretty detailed plans put in place before the town ever said yes.
Sure.
And the town is kind of saying maybe. But yeah, I mean, so it makes sense, and it makes sense with what these guys were talking about as far as the grant process as well. You know, nobody's going to give you what you need if you're not presenting a clear vision. And I got faith that this one's gonna come around, but
Are you gonna get into that during this presentation, like how? I guess I don't know what comes first, like there's money involved before all approvals so that you can provide what you're talking about.
it's really different in every circumstance. We've done projects where they had a skate park fully funded, and they said, we gotta find somebody who can take this over. And there's other ones where we're really in on the ground level, just trying to like help a grassroots organization get themselves some traction.
Okay, that's like the mission driven part of your own company.
Yeah, I mean, it's just part of I want a skate park and I want this in Freeport because it's half an hour from me, and I'm happy to put in all the extra time, the same as everybody here is coming out tonight. You know, it's
But that's a great space, and a space that's frequented by many people, not from Maine. It's an attraction in a place that is an attraction of its own. So why not?
well, they're busy growing cattails there.
Ah, cattail industry,
And
sorry.
and other shrubs and weeds.
Yeah,
But this is brought up more so for an example of what a concept design looks like, what it can do. You know, this is turnkey, ready to go over to an engineer. We can make construction documents off of this that our engineer stamped, and the process can really take off from there.
So do you think we're already up since there's already a park there? It's not like we're digging through a ditch already. We already have a park.
Having the space, I think, is the key thing.
Well,
You know-
said, that other one, the dairy was 100 by 100, we have 100 by 60, we have 40 feet along that back side. Make it 100, and he's already got the design made for it.
Right? There is a little bit extra wiggle room in there.
That's what I thought, between
Yeah.
that playground.
There is. So
Isn't that a basketball court?
there is the court that's there. There is some room to the,
Other way.
And
there is some room to this way. There is some room to the other way.
Yeah, so it could
So-
run along the front of the parking right there.
Yeah, I mean, there is wiggle room within that.
And I mean, real easy to move a basketball court if you have more room. You know, I mean, just laying blacktop's easier than what he's doing.
Yeah. So, but having the space,
Right.
you know, if we had to go, hey, this is a great idea, we were gonna do it. We'd be much further in the weeds than where we are now. Got a much better standpoint now. The fact that we have something there that's been there for a while and there's interest. You know, room wouldn't be full of people if there wasn't interest in doing something more. So,
Well, that's what's going on with our current skate park, is a lot of people outgrow it.
Yeah.
You know, so it'd be great to build it up. We also want to keep something to keep, you know, the younger generation coming in too.
Mhm.
So it has to be a certain size, would be my thoughts, that we can incorporate both those two different aspects.
exactly.
Yeah, we've been looking at, pictures of and designs of some fairly large parks. Not to say that a small town can't pull it all together and do really well and, you know, have something like this. But just for perspective, this is probably double the size. This is a little bit bigger than double the size of what's there currently. And considerably more involved than some blacktop and ramps on top.
Just a crazy wild ballpark, right? So everybody gets a little bit of, you know, a little bit of perspective here. 100 by 100 park. Features that you know we want to see in a park. Ballpark figure within $50,000 or $100,000.
100 by 100 park, Derry's budget was 550,000. And that was a considerable amount of excavation. That was extremely involved excavation. We were up on top of a hill, basically. But yeah, generally, skate parks are going anywhere from, at the very low end, $40 a square foot, to high end, I've seen, you know, more than double that.
So 250,000 for roughly 6,000 square feet, or maybe a little bit more, right? So realistically, the bottom line is probably like 250,000, and that would.
It really all depends on what people want to see, what gets built, what the timeline is, how long people want to wait, how fundraising goes. It's really, there's no clear cut, one size fits all path to say it's this.
So you could also go the phase route.
Good, absolutely.
Which works a lot, but sometimes it's a kind of a one and done thing and phase two never comes, but still.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting a lifetime.
Right.
For $250,000 or $500,000, you could do a decent phase one for like under 100,000.
Yeah, sometimes, for sure.
And then have room for fundraising and continuing when you get there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Anybody's seen the Bangor skate park, that was roughly 150 to 200,000. And that, I don't know the size exactly, but it's almost what I would call. Manfield State, 2 years ago.
Does it go into the ground excavated or on top?
Kind of up, and it's tilted slightly so water drains out without any drainage, but.
Yeah, I think they excavated it up though.
They dug up like that.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of at a slight angle.
You see how
And-
many people are at that part?
Yeah.
The fact that it's on top of the ground
Yeah.
for us and probably not involving excavation, will that save money?
Not necessarily, because it's means that things have got to be imported to build up on it. So whether that be, I mean, it's hard to say at this stage, but, you know, there is a good amount of cost involved with importing, trucking material in, moving it with equipment, compacting it. Kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And it really depends on what kind of, you know, even when you dig into the ground, it depends on what kind of earth you have.
What's the biggest, after you say, okay, we're gonna build this here, what's the biggest thing that can just change the cost of a project?
Biggest thing that can.
Because you figure you just start now with a piece of ground, and you're like, so what is the biggest thing that can shift the cost? Is it hitting ledge that you didn't know? Is it giant rocks that you couldn't see before? Is it, like, what could change?
It depends
what-
on how flexible, it depends on how flexible the project is.
Sure.
Because we've done that before and it was a non-issue. You know, we did a park in Oregon where it was a volcanic area. We hit a giant wall of lava rock. And fortunately, in that circumstance, we had the creative freedom to be able to say, we're gonna go with it. And we're gonna build up to this giant lava wall that we can't do anything about. And we're gonna make the other side compensate and adjust to that and make sure that it all works really well together. But,
With donations in kind of, like builder and lumber, rebar,
yeah,
and maybe even concrete, I mean, that would take a good chunk out of,
equipment rentals,
equipment, local equipment. I mean, it's a small community, there's a lot of people that probably,
I spent my life doing that, and I'm friends with pretty much all those guys.
yeah, I mean, collaborative effort would.
I didn't earn them gloves, but
housing donations, things like that. Those are all things that can substantially lower the cost or take what cash goes into the project and stretch it really far.
When you talk about fill and bringing in material, we just happen to have quarries still around. So getting material and getting filled is not that far stretched.
Okay. I mean, I've seen,
I know a lot of guys would be happy to help with us.
Yeah, I mean, we're not importing it from anywhere further than 15 miles away.
that's great. Actions like that can substantially, help and change the footprint of the skate park
When
pretty
you,
dramatically.
when you guys design these, do you do lighting and everything? Or no,
We
I don't
don't,
even know if our town allows.
we don't specialize in doing lighting, but we've been in touch with people that do, and we're able to coordinate and collaborate with them where we can send them our models, and they have different software that they use for setting up lights. But that's not anything that we specialize in.
Not in your conference, but that's,
No.
yeah.
Yeah, that's typically a separate, cost associated.
How long did Vermont keep you?
That project was start to finish with construction was about 8 weeks.
That included all your planning?
No,
Design?
that did not,
No, that
that
was
did
on the
not
ground.
include all. You're talking about start conception to completion. That was years in the making.
Well, it's used in the making because of what obstacles?
Funding, approval, mostly funding.
So if we had to take all the fluff time out of it and say, I designed it and we built it. What are you looking at?
I mean, that can happen pretty quickly if the funding is there to do it with you know, with dairy. Dreamland was awarded the contract for design build in the fall of 2021. I did the design over that winter. The design was complete by about March and we broke ground in June. That was about the fastest I've ever seen it go start to finish.
And do you need to build in good weather, obviously, like in the spring,
Yeah,
summer?
yeah. We go into the fall, we just avoid freezing temperatures, but it can be done. It's just a lot more labor.
So your work kind of needs to be done between like June and September. That's,
We've started in April, May. We try and be done building, at least in the Northeast, by about mid-November. You're cutting it close. So I got a couple other concepts. These are all relatively similar sized parks. The last one was about 12,000 square feet. This is 14,400. This is an even larger one at 20,000. And
Say they ain't 14.4. I'm gonna say they ain't 14.4.
and so, yeah, you can see that the design process, as far as the meetings, talking about what we want, what our specific limitations are, how we get there. This is another step in that process. And yeah, this is the current site. And I think I've covered a lot of these things, and it's also been brought up by a lot of you all. Anybody have any questions up until this point?
one of the things our committee keeps coming across is liability and the architectural design, and what are the other things that are they all, is all of that?
So,
In
some of
some
our
way
initial
packaged into
conversations
this?
had revolved around volunteers building something. So right off the bat, it was, the liability was in following a plan that had been pre-engineered to, we're looking at a half pipe and a pump track and, how are we gonna do this? And we had the people that could do it, and we could always get the materials donated and stuff like that. But it was, what would the town's insurance allow? We had to have a plan that was engineered. Said, well, if you have an engineered plan, and you build to it and you document it, you're good. Okay.
And you provide that?
Yes, we do that.
Okay.
And that's, per case. There have been times where we didn't have to do that for a small project, but if insurance says it, that's what happens. That's how insurance works.
Yeah.
But that's it. So it's just like an initial step. We don't have higher town insurance that we have to consider.
I could double check, but their concern was about, they don't want just a bunch of people getting together and building something.
Yeah.
Because then you built it, well, did you build it to what you should build it to? And the way you built it, what's the maintenance to it? How long does it last? What if someone gets hurt? What do you refer back to? Because when a manufacturer, you get hurt in your car because something goes wrong with the car, what do? You go after Honda, So who are they gonna come after? The town built it, you're gonna come after the town. If there's a manufacturer, well, I have plans. It's your fault, skater. It's not the plant's fault. You used it wrong. It's always about deferring, what the liability is.
So this covers that track.
I can double check with them for an in-ground. But at the time we were talking about above, building something wooden above. And
Generally, if you have state engineered design and document that you built it to those specs, then the insurance companies are gonna be fine. As long as the town maintains it to the way it was designed.
We don't be like, with that,
It'd be safer than all the metal edges.
Yeah.
Lost a few tires.
That's repairable. And now that I see a nice crew in here, I think we can get it repaired this spring.
Regardless, I'd say we're gonna have to wait a little bit for him to get that built, so in the spring, let's get it done.
Well, one of the things, I was project manager and built that.
Nice. Well, thank you.
Thank you. And, me and a whole bunch of people, we were 2 years building that, and a whole lot of people helped put it together.
What was the start of that? What got that started? You told us earlier. What
Well,
got that whole started?
Lynn Dunbar's niece was working in the town office, and she wrote a little op-ed piece in the town crier, said there's nothing for kids to do in this town. And I was working for an organization that could come into a town and help do projects, since I already lived here. So I came in and talked to Lynn and ended up talking to the selectmen. And then we asked if people wanted to do a committee to build a play area. And we probably had 40 people on the committee. We met, I think it was 2 years, maybe 2.5 from when we started to when it was done. We bought all manufactured stuff. This kind of stuff wasn't even available in those days. And virtually there was no cost to the town to build it. It was all donations, donated material, labor, groundwork, but the equipment was manufactured, so the liability was all, as long as we maintained it. The ultimate liability went to the manufacturers. We ended up, my memory's not much, but I think the whole thing, playground, skate park, basketball court, was about $125,000.
Wow.
But we started working on it in about 2003. And I think we finally built it somewhere around 2010. By the time we got it,
Fundraising or a grant?
Huh?
Was that fundraising or a grant?
Both, lots of grants. The Tony Hawk grant was just a little tiny piece.
It's $5,000.
Yeah, that's just exactly what it was. One of the skaters who doesn't live in town anymore, wrote a letter of support to Tony Hawk. I still have it in my files.
I think it was DJ Powers.
Yeah.
Doesn't live around here anymore.
Well,
Yeah,
he lived in the trailer. At that point, there was a whole bunch of wooden homemade stuff out there that was, and his letter basically said, Tony, you gotta help us. We're skating on junk now and we're gonna get hurt. And it was kind of, but,
So that shows you the history of the skate park goes before the skate park. There's always been interest.
Yeah, because a lot of you guys were involved there. Some of the money was federal money. And we're kind of under contract for a long time to maintain it and keep it. So I think what we should be thinking about as we develop our plan is to get this existing equipment back in better shape. And I think, as Ray said, we've looked tonight at the plot plan. There's some wiggle room there. We can expand a little bit, maybe a little more than a little bit. I like the idea of having, I think we have to retain, at least for a while, the existing stuff, because it was paid for by federal money that's expects it to be there.
But you're talking about the whole park.
Right.
The playground as well. And it was when did the federal dollars come in?
I mean,
like, well, you said the park was built in 2010, but you started in 2002. What did the
Right.
money from the feds come? Because I just really, I'm not, I personally, and I know I heard you mention that before, but personally, I'm less concerned about that. I think that we've showed due diligence and we've shown with regard to, well, with regard to what we build, I think that we've met what we need to meet to the feds and to, I think there was some state money too, wasn't there?
the money comes, the Fed money
Okay,
came
so
through the
it's
state,
a state aid.
comes through the state,
Okay,
and we're under contract. The sign that isn't there now and needs to go back up,
It's in the hallway.
it's in the hallway, has that
right, yeah.
documentation on there, but
Yeah.
that stuff will last a lot longer if it's fixed, and it would be good learning stuff for the younger people, and then build something more challenging for.
The only thing we have to be careful, and I don't know, but sometimes with federal money, when they grant you something to do something,
I think it's
and you
90-year lease.
you gotta, it'll say it somewhere. Sometimes when you take it out of service early, now you owe them.
Well, we're not
See,
taking it out.
No,
We're
but
not
that's the thing. So if you take it and relocate it to be used as,
That's
Right.
right,
so if it becomes like, the bunny slope of skate park,
Right,
right.
but if it's still there, but if it's a 20-year, gotta keep it 20 years, and then you can do whatever you want with it.
so
So
like.
that's one thing we have to know.
So as a person who knows nothing about skateboarding and will probably just enjoy the ballet of it. Okay. What, like, do skate parks, can there be a combination of concrete that's above ground and I'll call it mechanical or wooden or metal that's currently like equipment that's
no,
currently there? I don't personally, I mean, my gut level is not, but in reference to what, like Gary's saying, and phasing stuff and rejuvenating what's there, is that, I mean, I don't.
Yeah,
It is something that happens from time to time.
Their Kona Skate Park, the oldest park in the country, is in Jacksonville, Florida, and it's a combination of everything. The concrete bowls, wooden skate light half pipe, metal, I think it even has some metal, if I'm not mistaken, and they're always building new things, so, yeah, it's very artistic community and sport, if you want to call it that. And anything goes, but if you were to keep the metal to serve out the federal contract, that could fit that extra space until that's served, and then that could be a new phase, when it's time, move it out and expand. So I think everything is sort of falling in place for that. You can definitely, the slab, the asphalt slab is not in the best shape, but, it can serve a purpose if it has to. It's not horrible.
Well, considering how much maintenance we've done to it and how long it's been there, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, just in case nobody realizes, there's all three of those in that park already. There's a wooden quarter pipe.
Yeah.
There's a concrete curb.
And when the insurance inspector saw those, he
Yeah,
said, those.
he told me,
need to
he's gotta
go now."
go. He said, the wooden one, yeah, I don't know who made this, it's gotta go. The concrete, he goes, that's a parking bumper, right, that someone pushed in here by mistake? Yeah, that's it. And so all the homemade stuff, he was like, no, it's gotta go.
Wait, by the way, this, probably the best feature on that park right now is the wooden quarter pipe, because you can go up the ramp and do. Bill taught me that trick. Honest trick I've ever done. Anyway, whatever.
I just want to say, I'm really excited about the showing here tonight and the enthusiasm for this project. And I kind of wonder about us establishing a separate mini committee, to stay focused on it, because it's really too much for Parks and Rec to handle that.
Yes, sir.
Kind of like we have Sullivan Days under the Parks and Rec committee, the skateboard committee, I think would be a wise choice that reports to Parks and Rec and then to select board and everything else. But I think if we're gonna keep this moving forward, and it's not gonna take 5 years to get done, it's gonna take some focus and interest and establishing volunteers to contribute to the project and start to research things like that. Exactly. I mean, if we can keep what's going on in the room going forward, I think that would be really.
I think the general public needs to know that there is great interest in what that is and what it contributes. You know,
Folsom donated a lot of the concrete for the new dugouts up there, helped build those. I'd be very surprised if Folsom wouldn't donate a lot of the concrete for them as well.
That would be really incredible. Just,
They're
it seems like there's a lot of
They're
context.
very big on the
concrete place not far.
That's why they get a lot of business, they did.
Yeah, and then there's
A lot of stuff's
Ken,
close,
our
really close.
grant writer in the room. And I heard something about an AARP grant.
And that,
That won't work.
That won't
no,
cover it.
not with this larger project, but right now, there's a very unique opportunity,
So.
in New England.
Good
And
relationship.
it's called environmental
There's the
justice.
guts.
And I'm sitting here figuring out how to make this become eligible for that particular circumstance, because it could be a 3-year planning and implementation grant up to $350,000.
Wow.
So
I wonder if we incorporated granite into it when you talk environmental.
it has to do with, people.
I said, what about a community garden on the outside of it?
That's all right.
Right, and it's included in that big thing that's going on with the the byway committee as well. But I mean, there are unique ways to, look at this and how to put it into place with a funding opportunity. And that funding opportunity is due in the middle of February. So this requires some really quick thinking about how this might work. And it's gonna require a little bit of research.
So I said that to me and just. Thinking, so. Environmental justice, access, use, underserved communities.
Absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
rural communities, not, even though it's situated in Sullivan, it's accessible by all of the Schoodic region. I mean, I don't know where the closest skate park is in Washington County.
Bangor.
There you
Washington County, as if you want to call that a skate park.
It's not.
It's not a skate park.
Where is
Like on the lower side with colleges, if you were heading like in and you go up to college, that little road that loops around down by the river. Is that, and it, I mean, it's like.
It's what Sullivan was before we actually put it.
It's actually a tennis court with a bunch of home built stuff.
Like,
Cows after that.
So the opportunity would be not just for Sullivan, but it would be for all of our surrounding communities as well.
Yeah.
And when you look at that bigger picture, it's not just asking the townspeople of Sullivan to help donate, but asking the townspeople of Sorrento, Poolsboro, Winter Harbor.
You want your input on that? What was it Washington County made to 10th in the nation in the heroin epidemic out of 3,008 counties? We need something for our children.
Mhm. There you go.
Yeah, that's why I think we have. These.
And especially looking at this as a public health,
Yeah, yeah.
solution. Which is,
I mean, you gotta have something to do.
Yeah.
Something better than that. Yeah.
Candy, if we were gonna try for the February, grant,
Mhm.
would we need a design or an illustration?
I don't know, I'm gonna have to reach out to the Maine Community Foundation
Okay,
and just see how to move forward with this, because this is a much bigger project than what we've been discussing previous.
okay.
Yeah, that's a short time frame. Depends on what they want.
Yeah.
Now, I told Ray and I think I told Marty that I wrote all the grants for that and I've written a lot of grants for the town. But I did that as a project manager where I took it from concept. And there's a lot of work on the front end of this. I can't do all that alone anymore. I just can't do it. So, but once we get the project to the point where as a group and individuals working together, I can write the grant. And I will write the grants if nobody else is available to do it. But when we look at that site, I think we don't wanna look just at the skate park. I think we ought to look at the whole site and see if there's some improvements we can make on the other three parts of. But
Are we looking at, all grants to fund this or?
some of the grants that we got for the original project, Land and Water Conservation Fund, the federal grant, they got money every year. And if it was eligible the first time, it certainly is eligible now.
Well, and some grants may ask for in-kind. You know, it might not always be material, it might have to actually come up with a little bit.
Depends on whether they're public grants or, you know, state and federal grants are totally different than like the Harold Alphorn Fund and the Maine Community Foundation is kind of halfway in between.
But this one includes planning, which is an unusual, and for that amount of money, it certainly would be worth.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can figure out how to have it fit into,
Yeah, it's a three-tiered process. It includes assessment, it includes planning, and then it includes implementation.
Well, so, Candy, what kind of support would you need for that from the people?
I'm not sure yet because it just came across,
Okay,
came available within the past 2 weeks.
so we just need to keep this group kind of tight. You know, is what I'm feeling.
My thought is that
Let it down.
if we want to do a subcommittee, we should actually do subcommittee instead, a date for them to be meeting. And stuff that, so people can start planning, am I correct?
I missed that.
Well, so if the subcommittee is gonna meet, we should know when they
Right.
should meet next.
Yeah.
It's just if Candy's gonna need information from everybody else.
Exactly,
When
And
would be,
February is very, very soon, so.
Yeah.
so,
So maybe it
So-
should be at least a weekly thing.
so let's just defer to Candy.
Yeah.
Could you let us know when you would need, when would be best to meet people again?
So circumstances such, hold on one sec, I just lost track of it. Today we are having, technical assistance, on January 16th. And proposal submission, preliminary work is January 29th. So sometime in between those 2 weeks would be helpful. It doesn't take me long to write a grant, I mean, not that I don't have years of experience doing that. But I do need to set aside time to do that, and what I need to know first before I, ask, I need to know what do they want to know.
Right.
And so we can formulate it in a way, using the language that they are comfortable with.
Yeah. And if you all are able to get some quick information on who you feel can
Find out
donate,
what they want,
that,
give it to them.
I think would be powerful.
I was chairman of the Washington County Libertarian Party for Washington County, and I'm still pretty well connected to a lot of those people. We did a lot of fundraising, when I was trying to do the work to try and see if I could, make an indoor skate park out of the tannery. Libertarian Party was all for it, so I'm sure that my friends there would be happy to get some fundraising going and get some events. They've got a lot of experience with that.
Good. Well, then maybe Candy's grant could go a lot further.
Anything that you need from me, anytime, I'm happy to hear.
Well, I get some solid data, like I said, we'll have to get together, because when Bill first came to me with this, however many months ago it was. With the pump check, I don't even know if the pump check's still a thing or not, but,
Well, this is with the pump, it kind of evolved into this. It was like, well, what can we do? What can we do?
Mike Gowan,
Yeah.
do you know Mike?
Yep.
He's right local, yeah. Hammond manager there, they give out materials to local every year or whatever, and I mentioned this to him way back then. He said, yeah, just give me the paperwork and I'll file it to the higher ups, and that's not a guarantee or anything, but he needs like an actual thing. I can't just say, hey, they wanna build a skate park, donating money, you know.
Yeah, can I get a bulk of 2x4s? Yeah.
Yeah, you know. So there's that, but I guess that's what we gotta all get together and kind of figure out, pool all of our resources.
So it sounds like what would be really helpful in this process is a conceptual, just, here's an example design.
Yeah.
You got any of those in your back pocket?
Sure.
And then we
Yeah.
could, use for something like that, to
And it's
say,
gonna look really good driving into Sullivan.
Oh, yeah.
That's important to me.
Well, because everyone's singular focus when they talk about what's the first thing you see when you come over the bridge, they say Dollar General, you know,
It's gotta.
well, let's,
This will help everyone forget about it.
yeah. The first thing you wanna forget is Dollar General. What's the first thing you wanna remember? And if the skate park,
Yeah, we've done some cool,
Ask,
kind of like. artistic stuff.
Dawn, because the Sullivan Rec Center is actually a separate nonprofit entity, a partner nonetheless, but would you anticipate any issues with Parks and Rec, with the Sullivan Center Rec Center?
We don't really, it's town owns that property.
I guess
From our
so.
point of view, what the town does with it.
I see them searching.
Right, but you own the parking.
That is true.
That was
Yeah,
my.
that's true. That's something that, sort of in that, in the city here has some parking, associated with the park, with the town land.
This parking, all of it in front of it, or
Not all
only a
of it.
portion?
Some portion.
Should we be planning a time to get together for a subcommittee soon?
well, I think we need to go off of, if we're gearing everything toward around a grant at this point, we need to find out, Katie needs to get a chance to look at it, to find out what she needs, to figure out when she needs to speak to people. You know, and pick brains.
So I'm passing around paper for names and emails so that,
Contact list.
we can contact and, I don't know if it is helpful tonight, actually, 7 days ago. I don't know, I would go with what you think.
Yeah, let me do all the research.
Yeah,
It's been chaos, so.
right.
I'm seeing two tracks.
Right.
Bear with me here.
Right.
what I'm hearing is there's definitely interest in pursuing a skate park, regardless of whether or not this track is there. So if this is a great one, yay, let's go chase it. But that's not our primary point. But if we can throw resources behind it, especially if Annie's willing to spearhead something like that, and we can get resources for you from this group. But we're talking about a bigger thing that may or may not come from there, but could come from other places, right? So establishing a committee is not a bad idea anyway.
No,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just getting.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
No, my concern was we're kind of using that as our focal point, but I think it's a bigger picture than just what committees work.
Yeah, we need the subcommittee no matter what. The next meeting date is more depending on Candy.
Exactly.
Right.
Because again, it's at some point to put the people who have the greatest interest in this, who showed up, and I'm sure everybody here knows at least 3 or 4 more people.
Right, and
And
if you're
it's-
interested in serving on a committee and investing the time, then be sure you put an asterisk beside your name, so we know if you are you're a potential committee person.
What'd you think?
Put an asterisk.
Star beside your name.
I don't think you're gonna be able to read my writing.
Oh, please, I can read mine.
I'm pretty well known, that's what hold me one way or another.
By the next meeting, do we also want to have available kind of a pseudo design image or something to start with? Or is it up to the subcommittee to just kind of work through what the factors that they want involved so we can design?
I think subcommittee should be talking about what collectively some parameters, then give him those and say, give us a couple of
Yeah, and that should
Swags.
happen.
Well, because Chris said
sooner
that,
than
you
later
know,
anyway.
part of his, one of his first, okay, you're really serious about this meetings, is meeting with the stakeholders and going, okay, what are some of the elements you want? So now,
You don't need-
you've decided what your size space is, and now within that size space, what are the elements that you'd wanna have, and you can go from there.
And that is a pretty involved process, and it is gonna save a lot of frustration later on down the road where, you know, if people from outside of those meetings catch wind of, oh geez, like, look at this design, they put it under the microscope, they're like, I'm not gonna get involved in this, and it's really best to have everybody on board to help develop those things, and take care while doing it. And that, I find, generates the most interest.
Do people frequently still have parties and like jam bands at skate parks and stuff, or is that like a fundraiser that still happens, or am I just thinking of California? Like to generate interest?
Really so, but-
Okay, I have friends that work at skate parks. Still do that a lot, but I never see it. Are we allowed to do that at ours?
The Maine Skateboard Association has a Facebook site. And if you
Okay,
scroll down, you'll see one event after another. It's happening all the time in Maine.
okay, I'm not.
The dojo, they have all types of events.
Bangor had a skate jam 2 months ago.
Yeah, Bangor has some.
Like, can we have a skate? Yeah, here, help generate interest in it, Jenny, or not? Is that- just easier?
Possible.
Maybe the committee, maybe we could do a committee item. Oh, no, I know. For summer, okay.
So, now to go back to you, it just say, so what you're seeing going on here, does it
On the email list.
does it feel comfortable that is it in the right direction?
It totally tracks. I think having a subcommittee that skate park is a great idea. That's something that we commonly deal with. And, I think through the work of that, you're gonna be able to kind of put together a plan that fits best for the circumstances as far as moving
At
forward.
least a good concept plan that you can turn into a couple of
Yeah.
renderings that may, with your experience.
Yep.
It's the quick shot to be able to go, so this is it. What do you think? People need that, rest around the talking is, folks that know,
It's a lot
what you
easier
you
to
can visualize
react to
what you're going into. It's the people that can't. So you're able to pop something up and say, this is what we're talking about.
And everybody's baseline understanding of what a skate park is different.
Yeah.
From somebody that's been to some of these places to somebody that's never seen a skate park
We have to
outside
think
of Sullivan.
globally of what everyone's gonna enjoy.
Yeah.
So the committee can sit down and write out a list of elements and criteria that we feel, and then you can take those and turn them into a concept.
And Bill has graciously chosen to be chairperson.
I thought about it.
He better. He started this.
Exactly.
And so, John, to go back to the rec center, you kind of bring this discussion back to them, because I want to know that, they're going to be.
Agreed.
Right.
Generally, yes. Specifics.
Right. Other things, Ray, with the select people are already aware that we're having these conversations.
Well, because even though there's been interest in the skate park, as lacking as it is, the first person to come really shake the cage was Bill. He came in and go, so skate park, what can we do? I was like, what? I don't know people used it. You saw it. I was telling Chris earlier, I said, you go by and you see boards hanging up on the fence and people hanging around. Yeah, it's not just a thing that you drive by. It is getting used. Now you went from the wood things that were in the park before the park was a park to now it is what it is today. And where do you bring it tomorrow? And I think that's what we're doing here. So it's an evolution.
Yep.
But you came in with the one to say, hey, it's not enough.
Thank you, Bill.
Oh,
Yeah, Bill.
more.
So I think just those of you who are here tonight, who haven't heard the conversations. So one of the things that we really need to work on is those who don't understand skateboarding communities and culture and its potential for our community. One of the first things that I've heard when I talk with people is, well, I've never seen it. Well, you know, do you really think that in the town of Sullivan, there's gonna be that much interest to cover that kind of money it would take? So it will be really important as the committee moves forward. Thinking about those voices and convincing. I actually think that there are people in, you could speak to this, Erin, but I think there are people in the business community here in the town of Sullivan anyway, who are supportive. They see potential to bring visitors and guests to our community. So I actually don't worry as much about the business community as I do the average citizen who is gonna say, wow, that is a lot of money. Do we really need this? So those are the things as we work, we really need to be able to answer those questions. Include and excite those people.
I was thinking part of your job is when you go out about in your daily life is you start talking about this. Start hyping it up so people get excited about doing this.
Advocate for it.
Yes. Right. That's part of your homework.
I didn't know it's gonna be homework.
Need to look beyond just skateboarding too,
Right.
bicycles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got the bike
Yes,
community.
right, I mean, the one over in Standish that I visited and took pictures and sent back. We stopped there for lunch one day and there was a fellow from Massachusetts riding his bike up and down through the place. My grandkids loved this thing when they were younger.
We're
With their
focusing
bikes.
on bike access here, at Sullivan. Our comprehensive plan.
Okay. All right, so next steps are, Kenny's gonna do some research. I have everybody's, I hope.
Everybody that you don't have already.
Information.
Yep.
And then we will either have a next meeting to address elements of a potential grant or a next meeting to say, okay, that doesn't look like a go, and then moving forward.
And then either way, we should work on a design, right? And get it to Chris, elements of the design.
I think the subcommittee should be looking at the elements.
Yeah.
Right,
And
yeah,
there should be members of the rec committee on that as well.
sure.
Well, there you go.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And me,
Who's on the subcommittee? Everyone not put their name on there?
I don't know.
You never came this.
Yeah.
Oh, good, good.
To fixing the stuff that's there, the big welders.
Yeah.
Got all the specifications that were used to put it together. Just needs some muscle and maybe a jack or two and
We got
Tons of jack up houses, new buildings, yeah,
so
all that stuff in my spare
I
time.
think that's a spring project. It's a little cold now.
That's a matter of opinion. If you're cold, all kinds of heat, right? Then fools.
have you told us all you wanted to tell us about your work?
I objected.
I think I have. I came into this not really knowing what the scope of the meeting was or who was all coming to the meeting. Pleasantly surprised to see so many people come out and hear that so many people have a lot of experience with community projects and are really excited about it.
I think Parks and Rec Committee itself is committed to doing something with that park. It cannot continue as it is. And even, I don't know the extent to which you all are aware, but recently the National Scenic Byways just submitted a grant, a large federal grant to kind of revision that area as an entry point to the scenic byway. It is a large grant.
Park?
No, it's not. It's actually to improve.
Yeah.
And that's infringing on our land.
And we, you see, well, you see a picture over there, but it's a grant. Who knows whether or not we get it.
When they planned that, were they expecting to use any of the town land or only just Rex?
Larry had talked about being flexible in every element within there.
So pre-meeting, we dug out the plot plan. And I think we can get Don and Ray and we need to go up and find where those markers are. So we know exactly what we got.
Right, well, that should be done anyway, but no, they're not necessarily using it. They potentially will enhance along with us, and that, that's also very exciting.
Yeah.
But if we don't get it,
Right, that's a year.
it's like, that's probably 5 years. I mean, it won't even be awarded until the end of 2025, but those of us who've been involved in that discussion feel very excited that that could happen. But then we say, well, if that doesn't happen, we need to do something with our time.
One's not contingent on the other.
Right. No, absolutely not contingent on the one on the other. It's all really exciting kind of stuff.
Yeah, that would be awesome to have both.
Yes.
Yeah, that would really make, that would make that like really a.
It would be
a beautiful scenic
unbelievable.
view that you're coming in and you see what those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. It would be pretty. Gonna get that done. Okay, well, thank you all for coming. The committee is going to stay for a little bit and work on our project.
You did have one person jump on from Zoom, Andy.
Oh, Andy showed up late.
Yeah. Didn't stay the whole time, but showed up for a while.
That thing is pretty slick. I've never seen it close.
And it does. You see what the view?
I saw that it does. That's
And
amazing.
when it does, and it's it picks up the person.
Yeah.
And so it does look like room.
What a tool.
It's really. You used well in the week.
Well, I hope that was helpful.
Stop the recording because we don't need to record, but we got all.